Hello, hello, Bright Spots audience. It is so good to see you. Last week was not a great week. I was a little under the weather, so we are going to reschedule Kim Riley for sometime soon. It will be a special episode because, as you know, Bright Spots is fully booked till the end of season 2 at the end of May, so we won't start back up again until September, and we are already booking guests for our 3rd season starting in September. So thank you for tuning in each week. And if you're new or you've forgotten, remember this is an interactive show. Post your comments down below, ask our guest questions, and we would love to interact. We would love to hear from you. Please let us know where you're tuning in from as well. We love to know where you're tuning in from. So please just let us know if it's your first time, and if it's not, how many times have you watched Bright Spots, right? So this evening's guest is an expert in letting go of hurts. So give that some thought while we get ready to bring our guest on. But before I go any further, I do want to give you an update on baby Bev. So baby Bev is now 2 months old. Oh my goodness, would you look at that? It's backwards up here, right? Look at that. Our little baby Bev is 2 months old, and her hair is turning red. And my daughter tells me that she has found both of her hands now and is trying to put them both in her mouth at the same time, right? Oh goodness, it is just wonderful to be a Gia. I had my 3.5-year-old granddaughter earlier today, and she reminds me what it's like to be a little kid. She gets so excited about the smallest things, especially Play-Doh. And I have it in my carpet to prove it, right? Just so much fun to be a Gia. I can't tell you how much I enjoy it because it's beyond explanation. It's absolutely wonderful. Well, I am excited to have you here. This is our 3rd show of the new year, and I hope your new year's going well. Today we had the exchange of power, right? The smooth, peaceful transition of power to our new president, Joe Biden, and Vice President Kamala Harris. And, you know, it's a new day in America, as it is every inauguration day. There's a new president and things change a little bit, but we can rest assured knowing that there's only one person in charge and he's got a plan, and we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay regardless of who sits in the White House, right? And whether you are a Democrat, a Republican, or otherwise, we are non-political here on Bright Spots, but we do support America. We are proud to be Americans, and you know we're gonna support the new administration as much as we supported the prior administration. So here we go. Here is another episode of Bright Spots. This evening's guest is Lisa Cassman, Dr. Lisa Cassman. She told me she's not used to that title yet. She just earned her PhD in the fall, so she's still getting used to that. But I think we should call her Dr. Lisa Cassman. She's a licensed minister, marriage officiant, licensed counselor, and life coach, author and speaker with a PhD in clinical pastoral counseling. She lives in Minnesota and has more than 20 years experience counseling children and families in the church, as well as working with sexual abuse and domestic violence victims at a crisis center. Lisa has told me that tonight she would like to focus on letting go of the hurt. So without further ado, please make welcome to the Bright Spot studio, Dr. Lisa Cassman. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is exciting.
Well, it is great to have you. So Lisa, tell us a little bit about you. You live in Minnesota.
I do.
You have a family, married, kids?
I am, yes. I have my husband. We've only been married 10 years, so we're just newly, but I have toys of my own. I have 2 stepsons, and I have 8 grandkids. I love being a grandma. It is just the
Oh,
best thing in the world. Yes.
there is nothing like it. I agree.
Yeah.
There is
Yeah.
nothing like it. They
Yeah.
really make you remember what it's like to be a kid, right?
Yes. And their love is so unconditional. They love being with grandparents. They just love it. So it's great.
So what do your grandchildren call you?
They call me grandma.
Grandma? Okay.
Hmm.
I have a 3.5-year-old granddaughter, and she has dubbed me Gia. So I guess that is my grandparent name, Gia, and my husband is Peepaw. So yeah, the non-traditional names, but I love it. Makes it unique, I guess.
Yes,
Uh,
it does.
yeah. So you've been married 10 years, and have you always lived in Minnesota then?
I've always lived in Minnesota. Yes. Yep. Yep.
Okay. It's cold up there.
It's very cold, but it was a nice day today. It was almost 40 today. It was really nice.
Almost 40. That's
Yes.
great. Well, in Ohio, it fluctuates. We go between, it can be 30 degrees one day and 70 degrees the next day here in the Ohio Valley. It's crazy, crazy weather. I've only been to Minnesota once.
Okay.
I came to the Twin Cities a couple of years ago to do a singing engagement, actually. Um, Beautiful place. I came in January, so I came when it was cold.
Okay.
I believe it was below zero when I was there. So yeah, that's all I know about Minnesota.
Yeah, this is
Somebody
a little
said to
bit
me,
warmer winter. It's
yeah,
a little bit warmer this year,
who
so.
goes to Minnesota in January? That was the question that
I know,
um,
right?
I really wanted to see the Mall of America, but I didn't make it there. I didn't have a lot of
Oh,
time to
that's too bad.
sightsee. Yeah, I hear it's kind of cool.
It is. It is really nice. Yes.
So what made you go into counseling, Lisa? What is the driving force behind you and a career in counseling?
Well, I don't know. I guess even when in high school, I wanted to do that. I never wanted to do speaking because I was really, really shy, and I was one of those people that never liked to be in a group of people in school. But counseling was one-on-one, and I liked helping other people out. So I think that's the biggest thing is what. And I went through a lot myself growing up with different things, and I'm not going to share them on here, but that's because that's part of my speaking when I do it. But um, yeah, I think a lot of it is because I wanted to help other people because I was able to get through with everything that I went through.
And you're also an author.
I am. Yes, I've written 4 books.
You've written 4 books, and are they basically the same as far as are they counseling type books?
They are. One book is a poetry book. I started writing poems when I was a teenager, and that's kind of a little story in itself because I had this crush on this guy, and I wrote poetry poems on how I felt, and then eventually him and I got married after we both were in bad relationships. But um, the other ones, yes, my one book is on marriage. It's kind of a self-help book on how to have a positive marriage. And then my second one is on self-worth. I was doing a lot of speaking on self-worth to a lot of big groups of ladies and at different churches and events. And they would ask me if I had a book on my self-worth, and I didn't. So I wrote that book to go along with it. And I actually do a lot of group sessions with it. I mean, right now it's been really hard with this COVID, but I'm able to do group sessions, and you can use it as a little Bible study. And my last one that I did was it's a prayer journal guide, a talk before text. That one I think is the Beautiful You and the Talk Before Text are my 2 favorite ones. Talk Before Text gives you different ideas and little scripture every day to be able to pray for different things. And one of my first ideas to pray for is actually the government and the president and our country. And I think that's really important to always keep them in your prayer. So each day is a different day, different topic that you can pray for. So yeah, that one is. And the Finding the Beautiful You is kind of goes along with my self-worth class and my self-worth speaking that I do in the when I do the speaking in front of groups of people.
Okay. So we talked about today, we wanted to talk a little bit about carrying hurt or letting go of hurt.
Okay.
So do you find that a lot of people carry hurts from the past, and then that affects their life in the present?
Oh, absolutely. I actually did a lot of counseling with people, or advocating or counseling, however you want to word it, with in a alcohol and drug treatment center at one point. And a lot of the people that were um, in there for treatment, they come to find out that they were actually abused in some way when they were younger, and they carried it with them, and they started using either, whether it was domestic violence or sexual assault, then they started using to cover up that pain. So yes, it can carry into your job, it can carry into your relationships, it can carry into anything that you do in your life, because you're not letting go of that. Your self-worth is really important when you want to move forward in your life.
And so, what advice do you have to people who are carrying hurt through, how do you let go?
Well, different ways. I actually have solutions to a problem, and I'm going to just give you it's how to take control of your life once and for all. And I'm going to give you just kind of an idea on when I do my speaking, I give a handout, and then I read some of them on there. And I'm just going to read some of them right now. Okay. Don't expect anything to be perfect, because once you expect something to be perfect, you are going to find yourself that you're going to get hurt anyway. And remember, your knowledge and dreams aren't enough to take action. And sometimes you look into wanting something, but you don't move forward to do it. You don't take action. So then you're hanging on to it some more. And do you have fear? Do what frightens you to destroy the negative power. And get in gear and think now, not tomorrow. The think now and not tomorrow is a huge one for me, because if I was still thinking on now instead of tomorrow, I wouldn't be where I am today. I'm going to give you an example on that. So back last spring, I also have a spa and salon. I own that. And I had to shut down in March. And my husband was actually home every day. He used to be a truck driver, and he was able to be home for 9 months. And all of a sudden, he had to go back in the truck. And so I sat at home pouting, and because I couldn't be around people, I had to sit at home, and I had to shut down my spa. And I had a friend actually call me, and she asked me how I was doing. And I told her what was going on. And she pretty much told me to get a grip and get a life and move on with my life. So I did. And that's when I finished, because I had started my PhD many years ago. And I went on and I finished my PhD. So I needed to look into my future instead of looking at now and what was going on in my life right now. So yes, it affects your life now if you don't move forward with it and if you don't let go. I can't hear you.
Well, that's because I'm the joy of technology.
I know, right?
So, for someone who is experiencing some of the same things you experience, they have a stay-at-home order. They had to be at home. They were not able to continue their job, and some people still haven't been called back to work yet.
Exactly.
They're still at home, and so the new year, for a lot of people, the new year brings new hope, and
Mhm.
but what we saw in the new year was that a lot of the same. The pandemic is still very serious right now. And as we're rolling out the vaccine, it's not a quick fix. There's still things that have to happen before we can all be back together again. So, what
Right.
advice do you have for people that are really struggling with that are carrying some of those hurts from 2020 into 2021?
Well, maybe just look at yourself and think, is there something that I've always wanted to do? And I understand that people can't always afford to go to school. I mean, it's not the cheapest thing, but find classes maybe, because there is schooling out there where you can take classes where it's not too expensive. And is it a class or is it a different kind of job? Maybe one of those home-based businesses, if you need to just interact with people. You have social media, you can do a home-based business where you can do parties on there, and just find something positive in your life, whether it is a job online, whether it's schooling that's reasonable, or do you want to try something different, completely different in your life? And call people. That, I think that's a big issue, is a lot of people are lonely right now. And if you're lonely, start calling people, because you know that you can't go and see them necessarily, but you can call them and see how they're doing. And once you start feeling like you know how they're doing, maybe you'll feel better about yourself because you've reached that potential of reaching out to them.
So, Lisa, your resume is pretty extensive, and one of the things on your resume and on your website is that you specialize in officiating weddings.
I do. I love it.
How did that start? Tell us about that.
Okay. Well, I got a pastor's license many years ago, and I was working at this big resort where they were doing weddings outside in the on the grounds, and I kept seeing um, the people come in there and do weddings. And so I would, one day I contacted the event coordinator over there and I asked her how I could get on the list to do that. And it took a lot to get on their list because they only were able to do up to three officiating people on there. But they had somebody back out on a wedding, so then I did it, so they put me on their list. So once I did a couple of them, I absolutely loved it because I got to meet with the couples. I always met with I meet with the couples ahead of time, and I plan their weddings with them, and we go over the ceremony, and then I get to go to the rehearsal, and I get to do the actual wedding itself. But this year with the COVID, we haven't had a lot of big weddings, but we have had small weddings where people have had just the bride and groom and the two witnesses. And I actually just opened up a little tiny office where I do counseling and coaching, and I have a little spot in there where I can do eloping type weddings in there too. It's really cute because I got a fireplace in there, and I got backdrops where they can get in an archway where they can get married, and where it looks like they're doing destination weddings. And I'm a people person, and so I think that that's the biggest thing is I like to make people happy, and if it's going to be their special day, that's what I want to do. I really enjoy that.
That's wonderful. There's nothing like a wedding to give you hope for tomorrow, right?
I know, right? Yeah. Yes.
So also you mentioned in your on your website that you can't counsel using the Symbis assessment. I'm not familiar with that. Let me know what that is.
Okay. That is saving your marriage before it starts. It's pre-marriage counseling one. I mean, you can do it after you're married too, but it's it's a report that you can do together or separate. The bride and groom each does their own report, and then they get together and they see if they're compatible, and then we go over the whole thing together to just focus on what they've learned about each other and about themselves. And it's kind of interesting because sometimes the couples don't understand some of the things about each other until they get the report. It's an amazing report for couples. And I actually just ordered, and I hadn't done this yet because I didn't have a little office to do it. But now that I have an office, I'm going to start doing group Symbis reports where it's got like slideshows and stuff to go with it. So it comes with a book. So I'm really excited to start that.
Yeah. So my husband and I, when we got engaged, my father was studying to be a minister. He is a minister now, and we attended a Methodist church at that time. And my husband is Catholic. So when we got engaged, my dad had us go and take a test similar to what you're talking about, a compatibility test with a pastor. And before we left the church, I believe he was on the phone to my dad saying, "Don't let those kids get married. They'll never make it."
Oh my goodness.
We've been married 38 years next month. I think it's going to stick.
I think so.
I honestly don't know what was in the report back then. They didn't share the results with us, which is interesting to me.
That is interesting.
Yeah, I love the idea of sharing the results because then you can, if you truly want to be together, then you can work on those areas that perhaps appear incompatible.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. We joke about that all the time that, my dad the preacher told my dad, don't let us get married. And, I think he's accepted it now. It's been long enough, right?
I think so. Well, congratulations on making it so many years. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you. I'll tell you my secret one of these days.
Okay. I'll take it.
So, Lisa, for couples that are having struggles and difficulties, do you do online counseling as well? If someone wanted to reach out to you, is that something that you offer?
Yes. Yes, I do. Yep. I do. I will do that. And actually, that's one of my specialties is relationship and marriage counseling. Yes, I love to work with couples and try to get them to work out their issues instead of just giving up on your marriage right away. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, Lisa, is there anything else that you would like to share with our guests before we close out the program?
Well, the things that I was going to actually talk about was you asked me about, so I didn't have to. But yes, I was going to tell you my book, The Road Less Traveled. I know that you had that up on there too, but I just wanted to share a little bit about that because I was in a marriage before for 22 years, and then I got married to my husband, and we've been married 10 years. But in my first year of marriage, we went out west to California. He drives trucks, so I was in the truck with him for a year. And I really liked how he treated me, and we were able to live in that confined little space, and he was really good to me. So that's what that book is based on, is how he treated me and what he did for me while we were in that truck together. And so that's why I wrote that book, was because I was like, well, if we could make it in that tiny little confined space, and he was still, we could still love each other and not kill each other. And yeah, so that's what that book is on. And it makes really good wedding gifts. I use that in part of my pre-marriage counseling that I do. Actually, we don't even call it pre-marriage counseling. We call it pre-marriage education classes. So.
Okay, so folks, if you are interested in Lisa's books, these are two of her books, The Light in Your Eyes. Is that the poetry?
Yes, that's the poetry one. Yep.
Okay, and The Road Less Traveled, which Lisa just talked about, and Finding the Beautiful You, which is self-awareness, correct? Self-esteem.
Correct. Yes. Yep.
And Talk Before Text, which is a prayer journal. So if you are interested in any of those books, you can find them at lisacassman.com. And Lisa, we really enjoyed having you as a guest here on the Bright Spot Studio. And we hope you'll come back and join us again sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. It has been a pleasure to get to know you. And folks, if you want to learn more about Lisa, visit lisacassman.com or visit brightspotsov.com and click on Lisa's picture, and it'll take you to her bio on our page with all of her links. Thank you, Lisa. God bless you, and have a wonderful new year.
Thank you. You also.
Well, folks, that completes another episode of Bright Spots. I hope that you enjoyed our guest this evening, Lisa Cassman, and please visit lisacassman.com to learn more about Lisa and book her or buy her books. Give them as wedding gifts, as she mentioned. The Road Less Traveled is a great wedding gift. I can't wait to read the poetry book, so please be sure, pick up Lisa's books either at lisacassman.com or brightspotsov.com. You can learn all about Lisa and also order her books there. I thank you for joining us for another episode of Bright Spots. Join us again next week as we welcome Lori McClumphy. Lori does a program that I think you're really going to be interested in. If you have anyone in your family who struggles with dementia or Alzheimer's disease, Lori is an expert in that field and is going to join us and answer all of your questions. For now, this is Laurie Labishak, your happiness ambassador, signing off another episode of Bright Spots. Have a great night, guys. See you next week.